Hey, how's my sister doing?
I'm good. It's Wednesday. The week's half over.
It's hump day. Hump day.
Yep.
What do you got going for the rest of the week?
Work, and then on the weekend we have friends coming on Saturday with their little girls, so we'll do some boating.
What friends?
Um, Kristen and Dax and Maeve, who's our goddaughter, and Kristen has been a friend since hospice days.
Oh, sounds good. You guys gonna do any boating or outdoor activities?
We are. We like to pull Maeve, their little girl, on the tube behind the boat.
Oh, fun. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
yeah, really fun.
Excellent. So, it's summertime. What's been the highlight? What's been the highlight of
Well,
summer so far?
Well, I know people have complained about the heat, and I know that our area needs rain, but we have loved the hot weather, no rain. We've been able to do everything we wanted to do outside. It's been so good.
Good. Nice.
Oh, we've loved it. I've loved it every day I've walked outside. It's been wonderful.
Awesome. I'm fiddling with my camera, and I just took a still picture of you. So
Oh,
really nice. Yeah.
what about you?
Yeah. The
What's been
summer.
your best?
It's always weird because I always think that summer's going to be slower. I don't know why. And then summer comes and it just flies and there's just so much stuff to do.
Yep.
I think the highlight so far. Well, Kim and I got away last week for a few days.
Nice.
So yeah, we got to hang out in a hotel for a little bit. That was kind of nice. We had no expectations. No, we were going to see her parents because they were in the area. But after that, we just kind of hung out, didn't do much, and enjoyed the car ride. Just time to talk, and
Yep.
so that was probably the highlight. And then church has been good. We've had some good outdoor services. We have another one coming up this weekend, so it's been good. My life's been so busy; it's hard to find. My mind can't even settle on one, really great time other than just this time with Kim. But I know there's been more.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Good outdoor services.
Great, yeah. Lots of people, get a lot of new people, so I'm excited about that. So,
Yeah.
but this isn't a church podcast, so
No.
real quick, leading into today's topic, and this is a loaded question, and both of us could go as deep or as shallow as we wanted to, but I've been married 38 years. I've been with Kim almost 42 years. And how long have you been married?
We've been married 41 years, together for 48.
Wow. Okay, so in all of those years, for you and for I, what have been a few of the most difficult seasons or things you've had to go through in that time?
Well, infertility, wanting more children and not being able to have them, failed adoption, um, kind of a disappointment situation didn't work out when we moved and changed, made a career change. We've had our own difficult suffering with some infidelity. We've had difficulty with um, family members, such as my brother, that would be you, with, serious life limiting cancer, losing our. So those have all been really hard times in our marriage.
Right, right. And losing our sister this last year.
Yep.
So it's kind of a loaded question because where we're going today, how would you map out, trying to think of the best way to say this, how would you map out the differences of going through the difficulties early in marriage versus how you now go through them married 42 years? Was it easier or harder? And what do you think you've learned and gleaned from that?
I Going through hard things when we were younger. There was a lot more for me anxiety, kind of like this is catastrophic. Um, didn't have any idea how we would possibly bounce back from those hard things. It was a lot easier to fall into that feeling of it's never going to change. Um, just much more negative and catastrophic thinking because I didn't have any experience knowing that I can get through hard things and build up that resilience. And as we've gotten older, we've gone through hard things, but there is such a greater number one, we've proven to each other that with God's help, we are committed no matter what. And that takes time to really feel that deep sense and that grounding of, for us, we feel definitely called, even through hardships like infidelity, we are together. And early in our marriage, you don't have that experience to draw on and that proof of commitment. And now things are hard at times, different things come up, but now I know, hey, I've been through hard things before. I don't like this, but I've gotten through hard things, and just God's faithfulness. He has
Right.
never left me alone without strength, support, and bringing other things to help me through.
Right. That's a great point in that without history, things aren't proven. Without time, things aren't proven. So,
Yep.
it's hilarious because when you think of the first few months or years of marriage, the ecstasy level is off the charts and you feel love more than you ever have. And you like, I will love you forever, but there's no history to back it up. Later on in life, the ecstasy level is sure, I love my wife. I do. But
Yeah.
it's not this ecstasy driven, like, whoa. However, the history is there so that I can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and with more confidence and resilience ever, I love you. And
Yep.
I know you love me. Though the emotions don't match the first few years of marriage, the commitment and the proven track record is by far greater by which we can go by, and I definitely love you more. So it's just an interesting dynamic or dichotomy, I guess, in marriage when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about today, and first of all, I ran across a very interesting article, and I have to bring it up because I always defer to you as the expert and the professional. However, I won't mention the person who wrote this, but they are a marriage and family therapist and expert. They've written quite a few books. And he said that the ones who could best predict which couples were most likely to divorce were the pastoral counselors and those that had been married for a long time to the same person. He said marriage therapists, counselors, and marriage researchers did the worst. And I think they are overly attuned to marital problems. They tend to think everyone is unhappy. So he said, with the benefit of experience and having seen many marriages, both good and bad, older spouses in healthy marriages were quite good at determining which marriages were in, the possibility of getting a divorce. But he went on to say that there is incredible long-term advantages to be married for a long time. And again, the one of them was that they can easily identify in other couples how close they are to divorce, but it's reflective on how well they can also see problems in their own marriage the longer they're married. So he made a list, and I added some things of my own about the people who get through the first 15 years of marriage and beyond, the value and the benefits of being married long term. So
Oh, yeah.
I
I
thought
can't
we'd go
wait to
through the
hear
list.
them.
I'd get your professional advice and I'd add my two bits. But um, first of all, they said that the longer you stay married, the less you have contempt for one another, which struck me as odd that that would be one of the first ones on the list. But I've been around enough marriages where they don't even know how to communicate without contempt. So, and again, contempt is that talking down, thinking down, when you relate to your spouse. But have you found any of that in marital counseling relationships that you've interacted with?
Well, to me, that just makes me think that the longer you're married, the more you have a an opportunity to accept and realize what's not going to change. So I'm not going to get all lathered up about it anymore. Um, it doesn't do me any good to be resentful or bitter. It's not going to change. So
Right, which is point number two. Thank you.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
they say that they learn to accept one another, and so therefore, I think the biggest thing there for me is looking at my own marriage. There are things my wife is just not going to change. She's just not. Last night she was making pancakes, and every pancake had to be perfectly round, and she would meticulously take the spatula to make sure that it was round. And if it was like a little, if it was round but a little blob on the outside, she had to make it. And I jokingly said, "How's that OCD working for you?" And she kind of laughed. She goes, "It used to be worse." I'm like, "It did used to be worse, and it used to drive me crazy back then. Now I don't care."
Right.
If you want to be OCD, I've said this before. It's not a joke. I'll move one candlestick, like just 2 inches in my house, and wait to see how long she'll notice. And it literally, she'll walk into the room and start talking to me, and then say, "Who moved this?" And then walk over. I'm like, "How do you even notice that?" But
Yep.
you learn to accept that. You learn to
Yep.
accept that.
Same.
So,
Same. We've had some funny things that we accept about each other, and one of them is, and it just happened again uh, on Monday night. I we live, and most of the time around us, we don't have any neighbors there, and so we don't have blinds. And so often I will walk into the living room to finish what I'm saying, and I might be partially dressed. And Mitch is just like, "Oh my gosh, put some clothes on." And he's just kind of accepted that that's just me. I've done it since the first day we were married. Um, it just, there's that level of acceptance. So
and isn't that such a Heckman thing? I mean,
totally.
all of us have been that way. I mean, I joke that every one of my son's girlfriends and wives have met me in my underwear. I mean, literally, like, "Oh, this is my dad." Yeah, it used to drive Kim crazy, and she'd be like, "Well, fine, whatever."
Yep.
Uh, so, do you see in couples that come in and they find a hard time to accept certain things? Do you see that there are differences between what they can accept and what they can't accept over
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. There are things that I call, things to accept that have very little bearing on me. So one of Mitch's habits is he sometimes, or often when we were first married, he leaves drawers or cupboards open. And it would bug me, but then I thought, who cares? That doesn't really impact me. Now, if he was a compulsive liar and it always impacted me, or he was a gambler or irresponsible with our finances, that definitely is going to impact me. So I think there's a much higher level of acceptance when it comes to things that have less impact, which obviously this is a no brainer.
Right.
So the higher the impact on me, the less I'm going to accept it. And if I can come to a place where those little idiosyncrasies or those things that just irritate me, as a wife, being able to learn to say, who cares? Walk away or close the drawer yourself if it bugs you. Just
Right. And with that, not only do we learn to accept certain things, but we also, on the flip side, I realize there are things I need to change because they just can't accept. You know what I'm saying? So, and over
yep,
time, I think it's easier to do that. When Kim and I were married, and still to this day, I can't leave the house without telling her. It's like a trigger. And in fact, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I walked out of the house. Our mailbox is across the street, and my phone beeps. I've got a text, and she's texting me, "Where are you going?" She was thinking I was going out to the car and leaving. And all the windows are open because it's a beautiful fall day. And I just yell from across the street, "I'm getting the mail." And she just kind of yells back, "Sorry." But again, I used to think, I'm not going to tell you every time I leave the house. I'm not 5 years old, but I've had to. I've had to learn to change and adapt because it is a trigger for her. So, okay, so I have to change and accept the fact that I have to change, as well as I have to accept the fact that sometimes they won't change. And so
yep,
it's hand in hand.
yes, it is. That's a really good point.
One of the other ones is that the longer you're married, the more you take pride in the other person's accomplishments, whether it be personal or work, which I think is really good. if you if you've ever been in ministry like we both have, many times there are wins that your spouse who's not grown up in ministry like we have doesn't understand, and over time they start to pick up on that, and they can be proud of you knowing that I know this is a big deal to you, things like that. So what about you? What are the things that you're most proud about with Mitch, and has that grown over time?
It has totally grown over time. I'm very proud of his ability to teach the way he does, how he relates to his students. He often, at the end of semester, will get emails from students just expressing appreciation, and I'm really proud of that. Or once in a while, he'll get feedback from his other coworkers or colleagues, and really proud of that. I'm really proud of just what he knows as a CPA, and his mind for numbers and all that stuff about taxes that I don't have a clue. I'm proud of him that he's got expertise in that area, and I'm just so proud of some of the things he thinks of to do that I don't have a clue. Some of his
Right.
abilities around the house, I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that or know about that. Um, and I've really appreciated his expressions of pride in things I've done or accomplishments I've had. It means a lot.
Cool. Excellent.
How about you? What's Kim proud of in you?
Nothing. No. I think for me personally, I always took for granted growing up because of our mom that holidays and traditions would just always happen. They just unfold magically. And I think the thing that I appreciate the most, one of the things, but Kim is so good at traditions and doing things during the holidays and birthdays and everything. Very much kind of been the glue to our family in many ways. And the boys expect it, even to this day. What are we doing for Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's, whatever it is, Easter? And I see the value in that. And I always thought it would just happen. And when you're around enough families where you realize it doesn't just happen,
Yeah.
when you ask them what they did for Christmas or a birthday or whatever, and they're like nothing, and you're like, what? Or what did you have for Thanksgiving? A pizza, stuff like that. It blows my mind. So I'm very thankful that she does that. I'm thankful for her accomplishment, and this sounds funny, but I mean it, in having to deal with me because I am a high not maintenance. I'm just busy. I'm doing a lot of things. And then even through cancer, I was just really proud of how well she just buckled down and kind of took one on the chin for me going through all that. But
Yeah.
very, very, very proud of how good of a mom she is. She's an amazing mom.
And
So,
what do you think she's proud of you for?
um, wow. I, I mean, this is hard because I don't want to sound arrogant. I think she's on a real surface level, probably proud of how well I've taken care of myself physically, even through all the sickness and cancers. I think she's proud of me always trying to do the right thing, even in the hardest circumstances. Probably hard for her to understand or to wrap her head around, but I think she's very proud of the fact that I'm a very gospel first, Jesus. I'm always going to share the gospel with people no matter where we are or what we're doing. I don't care
Right.
if someone's embarrassed. She can tell you story after story. When we were newly married, I'd come home late and she'd be like, "Why are you so late?" I'd be like, "I was telling this person about Jesus." And at first she kind of thought it was an excuse. But now after 40 years, 42 years being together, she realized, no, he's late because he was talking to someone or praying for someone. So I think she's proud of those things. And
Yes.
then I think ultimately she's really proud of the father I've been to our boys. So
I bet it's all true.
yeah, I think so. But I'm me. So uh, So also long term, you learn to increase your respect for the other partner. You respect their choices, their values. Many times the respect that they talk about is because you're from a different family and you have a different structure and different values. Early on in marriage, it's hard to really respect that or understand it. But as time goes by, you go, no, okay, that yeah, I can respect that. So gaining the respect of one another. They also, I thought this was unusual in that not we talked about how they accept each other and not don't try to change them, but they also, the longer they're married, the I'm gonna try to word this right, so I'm gonna have to read it. Um, they no longer waste times in futile attempts to change the other person's mind, which I kind of laugh because yes, I've been there, done that, where you realize I'm not going to change this person's mind. So I've been with them 40 years. I understand how they think. So I'm not even, it's in a sense to me, it says you're not going to waste your energy, on things where you're not going to change their mind. So maybe
Yeah,
not a
and
behavior issue, but their mindset.
yeah, I think that's so true. Like you begin to understand there's some fixed mindsets that you're like, it's just a waste of energy to try to change their mind on that, and it probably doesn't matter. And at the same time, the longer we're married, the opposite is also true. I feel more confident and not so afraid to speak up if I disagree. Um, I feel safer emotionally that he's not going to leave me or reject me if I speak up and disagree with something and at least voice my difference. But then also, I'm much quicker to get to that place of where I'm not wasting energy trying to change his mind.
Thus, Enneagram 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Enneagram 8. I'm the one that people don't want to speak up around. So, however, it makes me think, though, over the years, there is, like you said, a softening to where it's not, sometimes I'm not going to waste the energy, but a lot of it is you start to kind of change your mind and come alongside of them
Yeah.
and maybe not fully agree, but kind of understand and, kind of vacillate and roll with it because you're like, yeah, I can see some value in that mindset or in that thought. So it's interesting. You increase in patience for each other, which I think is true, but also not true. But anyway, but that's me. That's me. Have you seen that in your relationship and in counseling?
I've seen it in counseling in my own marriage. I'm lucky that's one of Mitch's strongest virtues. He's very patient. So he started out with a lot of patience. So I think it's probably grown. Um my I see in counseling, my experience is that they run out of patience initially, but then they have more patience because it goes back to they accept the things that aren't going to change. So it's like, why get impatient or why be frustrated? This is how it's always been. So
Right, right. So when you have a couple come in and they've been married for a long time, and there seems to still be a lack of patience for the other person, can you put your thumb on why that is? Is it just simply personality? Has the other person burned too many bridges? Or say after a 20-year marriage, people still just don't have the patience? Why might be that reason? Because there's probably listeners going, hey, we're no more patient than each other than we first started.
well, one of the things that I've had to sometimes speak really strongly is I will let people know impatience is a habit. It's not
Oh,
a we often say, well, I'm impatient, that's just how I am, or I have a short fuse, that's just how I am. But if you look at things over time, things like impatience or anger, they often fall into the category it's just become habit to be impatient, and
mm,
patience can be the habit you replace it with. I'm in the habit of being impatient, being frustrated, exploding because I'm impatient, or getting letting myself get all upset. It's a habit, an emotional habit I've let myself get into, and I can learn to have the habit of patience, whether
right.
that's simple behavior modification of counting to 10 or walking around the block or, pinching, biting the inside of my lip or whatever to hold my patience and create. So patience can be just a bad habit. Also, if they still are that impatient, of course, as a therapist, I'm always like, okay, what's underneath that? What's driving that impatience? Are you feeling dismissed? Are you feeling disrespected? That's often a
Mm.
biggie. What's driving that impatience?
A good point. I think, you know, we we tend to think that our personalities are locked in, and to some degree they are, but we confuse something like patience with our personality. It reminds me of an old Jim Gaffigan joke where he says, if you're white and you get mad, you're a jerk. But if you're, from South America, you have a Latin temper, and it's
Right,
accepted. And,
right.
and the thing is that it's not, patience is not a part of your personality. You can learn it.
Yep,
Now, good luck telling your spouse that who's impatient, but
right.
that's still very true. The kind of going hand in hand with that is that they say the longer you're married, you understand each other better and better. And in great detail, they talk about likes, dislikes, wants, things you don't want, all the way from the food items to, vacations to everything. But again, they say the the beauty of that is that where before you're always trying to, you're trying to figure out how you're going to mesh. Now there's just that almost symmetrical, natural meshing where if you go to pick up dinner and as you're there, you see key lime pie. And you're like, oh, my wife loves key lime pie. I'm going to grab it, and you come home and she's like, oh, key lime pie. How did you know? Well, I knew because I know.
Yep,
And it was the special this week. So they had it and I got it for it. From that to, if we go on a vacation, if I was given $10,000 for a vacation, I wouldn't plan to go to Montana because I know that's not what my wife wants. I would love it. But I know, well, we're probably going overseas somewhere to Italy or France. So, something like that. So you learn the best about each other, likes, dislikes, things like that. So, and
oh
again,
my
after
gosh.
42 years, it's huge.
Yes, that's you. One of the things that so illustrates that for us is Mitch is he's got this amazing ability to predict movies that I'll like, and he often will record them. He'll see them on the TV listing and he'll go, "Oh, I think she'd really like that." He'll record them and I'll get home from work and he'll be like, "Hey, there's a couple movies that I've recorded. I think you're really," and almost always he's right on the money. I love that he knows that about me.
Wow. Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3. Nah.
Fast and Furious.
Um, this is a good one. Early stage, you attract, then you become lovers, and then very few become friends. But the longer you're married, the more you become friends, which is to the health of your marriage. And says that the longer you stay together, the easier it is to become friends almost out of default. And then ultimately you become best friends. I'm thinking yesterday I told my wife I was going to go to my East High School reunion this weekend, but my car broke down. And I think it's done. It's got 300 plus thousand miles on it. I think it's over.
Wow.
So I told her, well, my plans have changed. I can't go. And she's like, good. She goes, I hate when you go somewhere where I'm not going to go. And we were kind of joking, like, that's not what best friends do. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But it's, we weren't always best friends. Even when we were first married, we definitely weren't best friends. But, 42 years later, we are.
Yep. There's this ease that comes, and I often joke and say when things are canceled and we have to stay home, I'm happy. I love
Yeah.
I love just being around the house with him. I don't feel discontent or like, "Oh, I'm so bummed out." It's kind of my favorite way to be.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing too when you're first dating or married, at least in our relationship, our emotions were running high. I won't say hot, but they're running high. And we want to do things, do things, do things. And yet we could be so passionately in love and then just so visceral, just like, oh, so, hate the person and want to do all this stuff. And now, 42 years later, very much like you're like, hey, I've got nothing going on tonight. What do you want to do? Let's both sit in our bed with our computer, put some cooking show on, and just hang out. And it would take a lot for someone to call me and get me out of that environment at that moment because
Yeah.
I'm with my best friend. I'm just kind of chilling and much more enjoyable than the first few years of marriage.
Yeah.
This is a good one. You learn over time to share more tasks in marriage, which I am probably the biggest, most guilty, and that when we got married, Kim was very much like mom growing up, at least mom in my life, not your life. Cooked, did all the cooking, all the cleaning, all the laundry, even did the stuff in the yard. I mowed, but still did the weeding and the planting and everything. And I just kind of worked and then came home, you know. I
Right.
would play with the boys, but that'd be about it. And now, this much time later, I probably cook way more than Kim does. And I'm very much more aware of keeping the house clean and picked up and stuff like that. But it wasn't anything she said, you got to do this. She just, over time, learned the give and take and the flow of tasks and how to best operate your house between the two of you.
Yeah. Same at our house. Mitch does the vast majority of the cooking now, and it wasn't really that way early in our marriage. I probably did more because I got home sooner and I had more time to do it. And just all kinds of things. We mix. Um, we just have really done a lot of mixing who does what when. It's kind of like who's available, who's got the energy. There's very little rigid roles for us. We're kind of all over, and I love it that way.
Right. It's a concern of mine today for a lot of women that are 35 and under because, and this will sound male chauvinist, and I don't mean for it to, but they are fully solely minded just on themselves. They will sleep with just about anybody if the conditions are right. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to clean. They don't know how to take care of a household. They don't have a recipe box. They are pretty helpless when it comes to really knowing how to clean a house thoroughly. And from a very selfish mindset, I see a lot of men, young men, they see a void of really quality young women to date and to marry. And so they go, man, how am I going to share a life or tasks with this person when they don't know how to do much? And it sounds crass. They know how to go to bed with someone and they've got a job making some money to pay their bills, but that's about it. They don't know much beyond that.
It probably goes both ways. I mean, when kids, if kids are raised and never um, coached and parented to know how to do the tasks and the duties around the house, I see a lot of young couples where, in fact, I almost posted the other day. I'm kind of shocked at young couples who literally are telling me they're having these big arguments about who's going to do the dishes or
Right.
who's going to get the laundry done or who's going to, and I'm kind of like, I can't even believe this. Because for us, 41 years later, we never have those. We rarely ever did, but it's like either we each do our own stuff
Right.
or the person does it who's there and is available. It really is an interesting thing. I don't know what it says about our culture, but it is interesting.
Yeah. It's disturbing. It's disturbing. This is this is probably my favorite point next that out of all of these, and that is the longer you're married, the more you understand healthy boundaries around your marriage.
Yes.
And so, not just with your time and your checkbook, but healthy boundaries of who to spend time with outside of your spouse, what conversation to engage in, just simple things like that. But
Yeah.
again, boundaries today are lacking in a lot of marriages, a lot of dating relationships. They don't understand the idea of boundaries because it sounds like you're telling me what to do.
Right.
But the longer you're married, the more you see I need to put boundaries.
No, I think that's true. You know yourself. That's one thing. You know yourself better the longer you're married. Typically, you know your spouse better, and you know what kind of boundaries are going to keep you both healthier in your relationship and healthier in your own personal self. And I think that's so critical.
Yeah. What do you think in today's world, in today's marriages, newly married people, what are a couple of the boundaries that they have the hardest time setting up in place? I have an idea what I think they are, but from your perspective in counseling, what do you think some might be?
I think some newly married couples struggle with, boundaries around how they spend their time. So they don't make the couple time a priority. They have no boundaries. And so they let, so for example, again, sorry, I'm picking on guys, but a lot of guys have no boundaries about how many video games they play and for how long. And that's, so then it eats into any kind of quality time with their spouse. Or women sometimes don't have boundaries on the time they spend with other of their girlfriends, or a lot of them don't have boundaries around their finances, things like that.
Right. Yeah, I think two of them that I've recognized a lot just in talking to couples lately. One is women don't understand the boundaries and what they should share about their marriage with
Oh,
other people.
that's good.
And so sometimes they say things to their girlfriends or their mom, and the husband or the boyfriend is like, why would you tell anybody that? And the other one that I think specifically for guys, and again to pick on guys as well, they get married and they kind of feel like, great, I've got that out of the way. Now I can hunt and fish and motocross and all these different things. And they don't realize, that has to have a boundary. You can only put so much time into those before it affects your marriage. And they don't always see that. They kind of feel like, hey, my wife's busy with her job, and maybe she is. But still, even if she's busy, she wants to know that, hey, you're not just on your own now. You don't have your own life, but you have a boundary set up so that there's time available for both of us. So I had someone recently say, I wouldn't even know what to do if I came home from work and my husband was home.
Wow.
And they said, because as soon as work is done, he's doing something with somebody. And, then he comes in at night, or I see him Sunday, afternoon when he's getting ready for his job on Monday. And she said, it's not at all what I signed up for. And his thought process was, well, but, I want to do things, and I don't want to just sit at home all day, and trying to help him understand, well, you don't have to sit at home all day, but you have to have boundaries around your time and around what you're doing in order for the one you're married to feel
That's
important
right.
or like you're trying to take care of them. So, all right. So this last one is really, really good. It's almost my favorite, but I can relate because of being married for so long. And again, we talked about this last week about the value of relationships and in your marriage. And so, and I would have never thought of this except this article kind of led to it. When you get a divorce, you, in a sense, lose all your relationships. Because if you've been married, say, 8 years, and all of a sudden you get a divorce, Bob and Linda aren't going to invite just you over.
Yeah, that often
And they're
doesn't
probably
happen.
not going to invite just Sherry over.
Right.
They're probably only going to invite couples over. And even if you get another wife or another husband, when you're invited back into that mix, it's a totally different dynamic. It takes years to build up to where you were at with your previous spouse. And many times you never have those friends again. I mean, they're still friends, but you never have those moments like you did before, where you're going out to Buffalo Wild Wings, or you were going to church together, or whatever it is. And so
Yep.
the longer you're married, and the more you're around other couples that are married for a long time, it's this synergy where you truly complement one another, strengthen one another, sharpen one another. And when you're not married for a long time, or you continually jump from relationship to relationship, you by default, you destroy that. So
Yep. There's nothing like long-term friendships that you've shared as a couple. And of course, it doesn't mean that new friends aren't good or that you can't make different friends or new friends. And, and shame on us for not including our single friends or our newly divorced friends. But there is something very deep and rich about long-term marriages and sharing your long-term marriage with other friends that you both like. Mitch and I have we are friends with people that came into his life when he was in high school, and then I became their friends because we became friends through marriage. And there's something rich about walking that many years with other friends, and I love it.
yeah. And I honestly didn't give thought to the fact that, but it makes sense when you divorce, because I've seen it now in my son's life. This divorce between he and his wife, you you kind of kiss goodbye all of those other couple relationships. He will hang out with other single guys, but I don't know yet to this point that he's done anything with another
Right.
couple. Uh, Maybe if he's dating someone, he would do something with the other couple, but it's still pretty limited. And my imagination tells me that even if you find that person that you really connect with, and this is going to be the next, you know, woman in your life long term, you're planning for the rest of your life. Even when you connect and you get married, again, I'm thinking of people in my life that have gotten remarried. It's a different
Yeah, it
dynamic.
changes.
And many times because I've known the couple while they were dating, I knew them when I was in high school or whatever it is. So there's this really long, you know, history between all of us. And then one of them gets divorced, and it's just
Yep.
weird. You just don't have that connection
Yep.
anymore. It's different.
True.
Well, great. So finish up with this thought. More long-term marital relationships, and what many people come to realize is that when you divorce, you no longer, or you don't start where you left off. You start from ground zero. And the beauty of a long-term relationship is that you're constantly building and not starting
Yep.
over.
I love it. It's so true.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. I know everyone, in all of our relationships, we make mistakes, we do dumb things, and in a sense we feel like we're starting over, but really it's not the same as when you walk out or divorce, then you truly are starting over. And we like to think that we're not, but we are.
Yeah, we are.
Yep. Great. Well, hey, I today was good. I
I
like
do
this. I
too.
like
I
this
like
topic.
this get old and get married thing, or get married and get old thing.
How long do you want to be married?
Till the day I die.
There you go. Amen. All right. Well, hey, final words of wisdom from you.
Marriage is hard, but it's worth it. We proved it today by our discussion.
I would say, in regards to today's topic, don't go by your feelings, or you won't be married more than a
Yeah,
month. And love is a choice, so make the right
that's right.
choice.
Amen.
All right. I
I
love you,
love you,
sister.
brother. Have a good one.
All right. All
Bye.
right. Bye.